galactic family, welcome back to my channel, IndigoAngel. Once again, I have a special guest on my channel, the one and only Miss Kimberkiss. And Kim, it's such a pleasure to always be talking with you. Thank you for coming on my channel today.
You're welcome.
Oh no, Kimberkiss has a YouTube channel and she does do starseed content, starseed readings, energy updates that follow the galactic downloads that we're constantly being received and streamlined into the planet. Our content is very similar. We are very good friends, so it's always great to touch in with her and get her perspective on things. All of her information today can be found in the description with links to her channel and to her website for services, as well as mine. And today I'm actually calling Miss Kimberkiss from the 4th planetary Stargate gate site, which is Giza, Egypt. So I don't know if you guys see the pyramids in the background. You should be able to see them.
I see them.
But I am through a very noisy highway, so you guys may have some noise interference. There's not much I can do about that. This is kind of the best shot I can get of the location for now. So, but today we are going to be talking about Hydra. We're going to talk about the Hydra starseed origin, as this origin is very prevalent here in Giza, and I didn't realize how much the Hydra undercurrent was really here. It's everywhere. It's all over the museum. It's all over the gate site itself. It's all over all of the historical places, Saqqara. And so I think it's really good to kind of jump in and talk about this origin today, as I have been receiving a lot of questions and feedback from others wanting to get more knowledge about this origin. So, Kim, I just wanted to touch in with you and see if you give us your take on the Hydra origin. What does this origin mean to you and for the collective, and what are your insights on Hydra and how it may be impactful on the Giza Stargate site?
It's amazing. Well, this is a once-in-a-lifetime interview, so thank you so much for having me on, and with the pyramids just beautifully right there, and my best friend right there, so I'm really excited. So thank you. So the Hydra, it's one of the largest of the 88 modern constellations, and it's just, it's amazing. The energy of it is just so powerful, and whenever I tap into it, I always get this just overwhelming feeling that it is so much more ancient and so much more valuable than we give it credits to. And so I really feel with the Hydra in and of itself has a lot to do. Actually, when I was tapping into it yesterday, I feel like it has a lot to do with both the divine feminine and the divine masculine, in a sense, because the Hydra, what it was is the monster, the serpent, but it had, according to different mythologies, it had 9 heads. Some say it had 7, but the top head was immortal. But in order for I believe it was Hercules. Yeah, Hercules, to defeat this as one of his 12 battles that he had to do, he had to defeat this monster where you would cut off one of the heads, and in place of it, 2 would grow. And so he had to get help from his nephew, and his nephew would have to take a torch with fire and burn the head and cauterize it to keep it from growing 2 more heads. And so it was like this very, very difficult monster to defeat. And it's interesting because when I was thinking of it, the Hydra has so much to do with water. I mean, it's the water snake. So it has everything to do with water. And there's so much running through my head right now that's just like coming in. And when I was like tapping into it yesterday, I'm like, oh my gosh, like so much more information that I tapped into before. And I think it's probably because of where you're located right now and just what we're tapping into at this moment in time. But when I tapped in, I got, because the water of the Hydra, the water snake, the divine feminine, the emotions, the water, and then for them to defeat it, they had to use fire, the divine masculine, to counteract the over pouring of emotions, or the over attack, like the aggressiveness almost of the female. So they had to put it in check in order to balance it out and then cancel out the monster in and of itself. So that to me was really interesting that that message came in. So I'm not sure.
Absolutely. It's so interesting that you're bringing up the masculine aspects, how you're saying that it does have feminine, it does have masculine aspects, because that's something I've really noticed is out of all of the starseed origins that I talk about, I mean, regardless of the universe, the 6 universal star nations, you know, Pleiades, Orion, Andromeda, Arcturus, you know, all of the 6 major ones, I get the most masculine response from the Hydra origin. Honestly, I have both masculines reaching out to me that really resonate with this origin on a deeper level. And it really does tie into Giza, Egypt, because even when I was at Saqqara and I was going through what's considered this part of the location of the Valley of the Kings, I mean, the kings honestly worshipped and honored the cobra as one of the highest forms of protection, the highest form of the representation of what they use to actually guard their temples, guard their sacred healing places and prayer places and things. So it's highly revered, masculine or feminine, even though it carries the weight of the feminine moons. It's such a diverse star system. And that really does encompass the mythology and the cosmology of the 9 heads. The 9 heads itself shows you how multidimensional this consciousness really, really is. It's off-world. It's completely off-world. It's completely beyond the Milky Way structure, the Milky Way system.
Yeah.
Things that I kind of tune into when I tap into my own database of Hydra is that it is in fact one of the oldest soul records. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I do starseed origin readings and I tune into where people are from beyond the Milky Way, and if they have Hydra in their chart, I immediately know they're not from the Milky Way. They're from the Hydra-Centauri super colossal cluster in Laniakea, right?
Yep.
So I feel that the record, honestly and ultimately, is older than Lyran Syrian consciousness. It's older than even maybe just as old as Draco or even beyond. But it's highly fundamental into the entire construction of our planet, the entire construction of our Milky Way system, having that connection to Alpha Centaurus.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it's really, really interesting how
it is. It's really magical. And I think it's really misunderstood because a lot of people view it as this evil monster, but maybe it's just the culmination of like everything because of its origin and because of how ancient it really is. It's so ancient that it's like you really have to tap in. Like you said, like when you tap in, you have to tap in and just really like get in sync with that whole huge constellation to even get, you know, a sense of what it really represents. And it's interesting, like when you said about like the earth and the sun and how you were saying it's more masculine. And I feel that too. Because when I first drew it, I actually drew it and I didn't know what it was. This like was 2 years ago. And one of my friends had told me it actually represents Mother Earth. And then I had like light language symbols around it or something, but I had no idea. Like I just zoned out and drew this thing. Like I didn't know what it was or anything. And then upon doing further research, I tapped in. I was like, oh yeah, it does connect with Mother Earth, but I think there's something more there. And when I was tapping into it yesterday, I felt like it had more to do with the sun, like the masculine, the nomadic sun. So I think it ties into both, but I do feel that masculine like so much yesterday when I was tapping into it, having to do with the nomadic sun. And I'm like, huh, it's almost like it's like the earth, but then it's like the higher self of the earth is the sun, and the Hydra represents that.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Even here, being in Giza, like being in Egypt and being at this Stargate, like I think fundamentally all star systems or all stargates are transmitting multiple radial signatures. And when I say radial signatures, I mean like those celestial mythologies or celestial cosmologies. I mean, here in Giza, it's transmitting an abundance of different radio signatures, but there are like a primary few that come through the most, and that's Orion, that's Sirius, that's Draco, that's Regulus, and come to find out, it's Hydra. And
wow. I know. They're like, yep, she's on it.
Exactly, right? It's like confirmation.
Yeah. Yep.
When you're talking about that masculinity, here I feel fundamentally is like the primary cradle, patriarchal cradle of civilization. And so it's transmitting such high solar codes here because it's the closest to the sun, its location, with being on the equatorial plane. It receives such a higher abundance of solar codes here that they're going off of octagonal codes here.
That's right.
Codes. And like, it's interesting. For most of us are working with the Merkaba, but here they're working with the Ogdo. They're working with the eight-sided star. And so they're bringing through that higher Melchizedek. And it's interesting that these are the star systems that are coming through. Like it is Hydra, and how that ties in on such a masculine platform of expression. It's really, really, really interesting. I was almost thinking that has a lot to do with its Hydra-Centaurian, Alpha-Centaurian connection. Like
yes.
The star system or the cosmology in the sky, the tail of Hydra ties right into Alpha Centauri.
Yeah.
And it's all coming from that same trajectory. So it's like there's even primordial formations of serpent centaurs where it's like half centaur, half serpent. And I've talked about that in other videos. Yeah.
You had messaged me that such a long time ago that you got that download. And I was like, ooh, because it resonated. And I was like, what is that? Like, what is that, like, vibration, that resonance? What is that? And you just, yeah. Wow, yes. I remember that. Yeah, because the tail does go right through there. Yeah.
Yeah, the tail end actually goes into Alpha Centauri. Like they start to merge. And
wow.
I was like getting all kinds of messages with that. I guess, what is it called when it's like half one and half another? It's like a
hybrid kind of, or
also another name for it.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of it.
Chism or a chiasm or something like that.
Yeah. I know what you're I know what you're saying, but I can't think of the word. But I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's so interesting too. I was gonna kind of tell you about some of the things so even the creation mythology here in Egypt is that with the Ogdo, it's their creation mythology is what created Ra. What actually created the sun was 4 serpent females and 4 frog males. And they came through that octagonal geometry of those solar codes, and they created Ra. Like they birthed the sun. So it's almost to say that the serpent and the amphibious was even like on a soul essence or on some soul primordial form. They were even here before the solar aspect was.
Can I just say something? Like, as you're talking about this, the sun is shining through my window and my room is just getting brighter and brighter. And I'm not just saying that. That's what just happened as you were talking about it. So, yes. Yeah. Like, you're shining the light on all the historic aspects that were either forgotten or that, people just failed to recognize maybe, or failed to, like, really worship and honor. So I
think that's what's coming up. That's what's emerging from the collective unconscious. I've been saying it for like years now. I feel like I've been talking about, we both have. We've been talking about Hydra for quite some time now. Yeah. And, we're like the emissaries or the speakers that are bringing forth this consciousness. It's like we're being prompted to bring this information forward because it serves a purpose in terms of collective consciousness evolution, of defining the feminine, the new roles past the golden age into the new age, into the new root race. Like, it's defining so much of the healing that we need to do in terms of Hydra, because Hydra was always forbidden. Hydra was always demonic. It was always dreadful. It's outcasted. It's, you know, it's interesting because it really, like, Asherah has been coming to me a lot lately, which is the Asherah tree or the Asherah pole, which is considered Yahweh's wife.
Wow.
And it's like the original objectification of women. And I almost feel like this original objectification is the original demonization of even the Hydra mythology itself. So whether it took place in Atlantis, it was at the time of the fall of Atlantis, but also it carried on in the pantheon of Greece and in Greek mythology, you know, because they were the ones that actually drew it into the stars, and they were the ones that actually brought forth this Hercules battling and killing and things. So it's like, I guess we can thank our Greek ancestors for some of this stuff, you know?
Yeah, seriously, because we wouldn't have that information to even go off of. It really helps when you're trying to, like, piece back together everything having to do with the history of the cosmology and everything. It's interesting. What was the name that you said? Asherah?
Asherah, yeah.
In Hindu, the star that equivalents Hydra is called Ashlesha. It's Ashlesha.
Isn't it like the 11th or the 8th nakshatra? Which nakshatra is that?
I don't know, but it was just a note that I took because I saw it and it stood out to me and I had to write it down.
Oh, yeah. It's the 9th. It's the 9th nakshatra.
Get out.
I swear.
And 9 heads.
The 9th. Yep. And that's like, Hydra represents completion. We've come full circle.
Yes.
In this realization and collective consciousness, it's the, you know, it is. I feel like Hydra is the representation of the.
I love that. The tetrahedron
of the Triskelion. Like, this is
Triskelion. Yeah.
This is the Hydra symbol, and this is what 9 represents. Is that eternal creation, that eternal flow of chaos, of chaos. And
which we're in right now. Yep.
Well, and this is what I'm discovering here in Egypt, more and more and more, is that chaos actually works. Chaos is the primordial flow of everything, of what actually harmonically and organically is supposed to be. It's the Atlantean rebellion and cataclysm that actually brought forth rigidness and brought forth structure. And so I think that the Hydra, they're so afraid of it because they're so afraid of chaos, and they're afraid to let themselves go in chaos. And being here in Egypt, it's like everything is so chaotic. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. Like, the entire city is chaos, and people.
Yeah, I saw you, like, walking, like, on the street, and I'm like, what is happening over there? Yeah, it looks like a lot.
Order, and it just goes to show you that, like, chaos actually has a fundamental principle of order itself.
Yeah.
So
the duality. Yeah, we need it in order to even recognize, like, the peacefulness and the balance. We need the chaos. Yeah. Wow.
I kind of wanted to touch on some things maybe you've noticed in terms of people that carry the Hydra mythology, like Hydra starseeds. Like, what are some things that you've noticed about, like, the things that they express about their personality or their traumas? Like, what's been, like, a consistent theme and things that you've noticed?
I think, like, the wounded healer kind of thing. Like, oh, I got hurt recently, or, oh, I'm going through this and I don't know what to do. So that's a sense of that chaotic energy. And I notice it a lot. Like, it comes up for a lot of people, which I think goes to show that how diverse and also ancient it is. It comes up a lot more than I would expect it to.
That's what I noticed too. It's just like there's so many deep wounds like from childhood, and I feel like it's common with Orion star seeds, but then also Hydra star seeds, even like on a deeper level, because Hydras are, even though Orions feel so deeply, like, and they're battling this dualistic nature.
Oh yeah.
The Hydrants carry the Cancer aspect. They carry the water, so they feel things more intensely. And what I notice is it actually closes down their sacral and their throat chakras. So like Hydrant starseeds, like their throat chakras are always like one of their number one trauma chakras. And I was noticing that like toning is so important to a hydrant. Because even if you look at like a snake and how we embody the serpent as a human, the neck is the serpent aspect of the body. And so as a hydrant, like we embody all of this trauma like in the throat. So it's like so important for hydrants to be able to speak their truth and to do tonal clearing, like specifically in the throat chakra. You're like, yes, like, oh my gosh.
It makes so much sense, Amanda, because like I can't even this past week when I've been doing general readings, what's been coming through is the inner child wounding, what happened at the time of birth and there and after, and that's been coming up this last week. And then also what's been coming up, I've noticed like collectively with other psychic readers, they've been speaking about how we have to speak our truth, how there's blockages in the throat chakra. And believe it or not, that's one of my biggest blockages. That's one of like the hardest things that I've had to work through is my throat and like speaking my truth and just communicating what it is that I'm truly feeling, because there's such a wound there. There's such a trauma there. And I don't think it just stems from this lifetime. I think it goes back previous lifetimes. And I think a lot of people do struggle with that because perhaps things did happen in previous lifetimes that they aren't able to tap into or recall, because I do have trouble with that as well sometimes, trying to tap into my own. I'm okay with tapping into others, but when it comes to my own, it's like my mind gets in the way, and then I'm second guessing myself, or I'm doubting myself with the information that comes through, or I'm just like, no, that couldn't be it. That doesn't resonate, or that doesn't make sense. So it's just so interesting that you said that just now. That really resonated on a whole nother level.
Well,
yeah.
I really strongly sense and feel that it comes from this constant demonization and suppression of the feminine, and this is ultimately what Hydra represents. And where do we suppress this as females? You know, as women, we suppress this in our wombs. And our wounds are, I feel they're like directly connected to the throat chakra. Like when I would do Reiki, when I would do like full body scans and I would feel the womb, I would then ask, and sure enough, they would have some type of thyroid problem or some sort of like, you know, there would always be something with the throat. It's highly associated to like this suppression in the womb. And even for masculines, it's like, I feel like masculines, even though they don't carry a womb, they carry a psychic receiver to this aspect of the body. So they still are suppressed. This demonization and this inability to connect to their emotions, their feelings, the full vitality of their femininity. You know, when society has programmed us to not be able to, for men particularly, I mean, men are going through so much. With sexuality, like the programming that is placed upon the masculine, like, you know, men and boys are constantly being I was going to say bullied, but it's more like peer pressure to have sexual
targeted
and sexual relations as transgender, as gay, as bisexual. I mean, it's like such a constant thing that they're always having to like fight and defeat, and some of them give into that, and then, you know, it distorts their perceptions of their sexuality and their sexuality as they grow up. I mean, there's just so much that's happening there with that.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad. It's heartbreaking.
I think though that this all comes from the Hydra consciousness on some level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
so,
like the damaged aspects. Yeah. And it's hard when there's so much programming too. Like that's been coming up so much, the programming, because we're learning how to transcend these things and let go of the way that things used to be. And that in itself is really hard because we're comfort beings. Like we like comfort. We like to hold on to what we know. And if all we know is programming, how are we going to transcend these things? Well, you have to start little by little. And then you have to know that there's going to be some sort of altercation that starts to happen because it is a process. So you have to be able to overcome those little challenges each time. Almost like when you go in with your inner child healing as well, you'll start to take baby steps towards that, and you'll start to notice things reflected in your outer reality. And then maybe you think, okay, well, maybe I'm misaligned or maybe I'm doing something wrong. But ultimately, it's just a reflection of the inner work that you're doing on the outside. So it's like you're having to fight two battles, almost like the two Hydra heads at once, and overcome both things at once. And it's like you have to overcome that over emotion with the masculine energy too, and be able to balance them out.
I was gonna say that when you just said with the two coming with the two heads, it's almost too like okay, let's say you're a masculine and you're very, emotional, and you want to be able to express yourself in some ways, but someone basically comes in and kills your ability to speak this emotion and makes you feel stupid or whatever. So you build a wall, you build a boundary. So what happens is they basically cut your head off like you would the Hydran. You grow back. So it alters your personality, it alters your ego, it splits and cuts and fragments it. And then you also build an unhealthy wall and an inability to identify that like unhealthy wall that you just built. I know so many masculines that are like, you can tell they're just dying inside to maybe be able to communicate in some way, but they just don't know how. And so you can't access them. There's a very cold wall there. Yeah, that's just some of the things I'm noticing with it. So it's really beautiful.
It's interesting that you said the fragmentations, like what you were just saying. It's like it's almost like the MK Ultra on the collective consciousness, because that's technically what MK Ultra does. It tortures you and puts a trauma there to where you have to like split your personality and never go there again because you're so traumatized that you don't want to go back there. And then it's like you're forced to be programmed to think this specific way and then split off this way and this way. And it's almost like with all the programming that we have as a collective, it's definitely like an MK Ultra of the collective consciousness right now. And we're learning how to deprogram this, but at the same time that we're doing that, it's reflected in our outer world. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So it was yours. I was like, wow, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
What do you think would happen if we just unleashed Hydra? Just let her go. Quit Hercules. Quit trying to kill her. Let her be what she is. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, it says that the Hydra, the one head is immortal. So the one at the top is immortal. But he happened to kill that one too. But it's like the more we try to suppress the chaos that's happening, the more we're resisting it, the more it persists, right? So if we just let things unfold in their organic nature the way that they were always meant to, maybe we'd have a better outcome as a collective consciousness,
Absolutely. I agree. How do you feel about talking about the underworld aspects of Hydra? Now, I know that's like a no-no word. You say the word underworld, people come at us with their pitchforks.
I'm actually really excited you brought that up. I'm really excited because I was doing research on it, and the underworld aspect is, where was it? I wrote it down. It's Lernae near Argos, and they considered this the underworld. But the Hydra dwelt in a swamp near the well of Amymone, and it's Amymone. But when they said near this well, it triggered something in me because I've actually had a past life memory of falling in a well. So, and something's there with Hydra. I know it's there for all of us. Something's really strong there for me, like really, really strong. So I've just been trying to like tap in, and like this has been like a whole year where I've been trying to like piece this all together and figure it out. Because also I had a dream one time, this was last year, I heard a name in my head. I woke up, I Googled it right away. It was like Amatep or something. And it was, I believe it was an Egyptian goddess, but she's of the underworld. And if I got that name wrong, I deeply apologize, but it starts with an A. It's like Amatep or Amathep or something similar along those lines. But I'm like, why did I get this name? And then someone wrote me right away, like 2 seconds after I posted that they were like, well, maybe that's you. Maybe that was you in a past life. And I always get this stuff with Kali and like the underworlds, but it's just really interesting that it refers so much to that, because they're saying the lair was the lake, his lair was the lake of Lerna in the Argolid, and Lerna was reputed to be an entrance to the underworld. And it's actually like a really ancient place or something that they say it did exist. So, and it's also interesting because the Chinese, like their version of the astronomy was that the head of the Hydra was collectively known as Min al-Azal, meaning belonging to the uninhabited spot in Arabic. So was that uninhabited spot the underworld? Was that Lerna? Was that the entrance to the underworld? And maybe that's why the Hydra was protecting it and why it dwelled there. That's just coming, I don't know.
No, that's really good.
It's interesting. That's why I took a bunch of notes, because
one thing that I was kind of picking up on is what I've noticed is as more of this Hydra consciousness. Oh, hang on, guys. We gotta freeze here. Gotta freeze.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe that was the reason why that froze.
Yeah.
There was a point of time last year where I was having all this chaotic stuff happen to me, like overwhelmingly. And my friends thought it had something to do with the Hydra, that I was like channeling too much of the Hydra and that I should defeat it. And in order to defeat it, I should visualize it in my third eye, me freezing it. And that would defeat it. So it's just interesting that she told me that message and just now the whole screen just froze. I don't know.
One thing that you were kind of touching on when you were saying all that resonated with me was when Hydra consciousness kind of awoken within me. One thing that did start coming forth was all of the dark goddesses. That was when I started to have Kali come forth. That was when I started to have, of course, some of the other dark ones that I've worked with. Another one is Chinnamasta. So Chinnamasta has been coming up a lot. And she's actually in the 10 pantheons of Kali. And she's this really dark goddess. Like, she decapitates her own head. She has blood spilling out of her neck. She's feeding 2 people with it. She's standing on top of a couple, like standing on top of them with her sword.
Wow.
I mean, opening up this Hydra energy, to me, I feel like, because I've always come from the perception that all spiritual emanations, all spiritual archetypes that exist on Earth originate from a radial signature. And so I feel that all of these really dark goddesses come from Hydra.
It has to.
It might be kind of confident or...
No, Because it wasn't until I drew that Hydra that I channeled light language, and in the light language came through Kali Mata. And I didn't even know what that was or who that was. And my friend actually pointed out, that's Kali. That's the Hindu goddess Kali. So it wasn't until I drew the Hydra that Kali like came through. It was like coinciding right around that time. So what you said is, it relates. It's relative, definitely. It makes a ton of sense.
I feel like if you're really ready to face the black face mother, if you're really ready to face, I don't even want to call it a shadow aspect, because I feel like this is beyond shadow.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't shadow aspects. These are the primordial chaos of creation itself. I mean, I don't feel like this is shadow. I feel like this is the 0-point field into the void, into the actual next harmonic universe itself. It's not a wormhole. It's a star. It's like a Stargate vortex that opens up to hyperdimensions.
Yeah.
And dark matter and
Yes.
ultra templates of helium spectrums. I don't know if you caught my last update I did, but I was talking about the black diamond sun and
The black diamond sun, yes.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Catch up with you. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I know. But it relates, and it's relative, and it's like tapping into these things that need to be balanced out in today's society, because they're either overlooked or they've never been talked about because they've been so oppressed. I feel like so much of this is oppression. Oppression with creation, oppression with divine feminine, oppression with divine masculine, oppression with the truth being vocalized. And it's like what you said about that dark goddess, like how she cut off her head to let the blood flow out, to let the truth flow out, to let her voice flow out. A symbolism of like sacrifice. Yeah.
Like we are cutting off our own heads to make you see.
Yes.
This is what this is.
Yep. Because everything's been so distorted, right? With Kali, with Hydra in and of itself, with the feminine, with the masculine, and it's not the collective's fault. It's the consciousness of the ruling, right? That's ultimately program everything that it is that we learn in our history, everything that it is that we view on a day-to-day basis, everything that it is on how we're told how to act, the laws that are in place. It's like we are so oppressed. Yes. So oppressed as a collective. Like, it's ridiculous.
COVID, it's just getting worse with COVID.
Yep.
And yeah. I mean, it's a slow stripping of our sovereignty, of our freedom, ability to own businesses, our rights to own businesses. You know, but not necessarily too, because I was thinking about that, and I'm like, well, it could just be a shift to push people into the direction of how business is now to be associated. Like everything is going on, everything is going, you know, in a different direction. So it's a new opportunity depending on, I guess, how you look at it.
Yes.
And unfortunately, participating in physical 3D is actually not serving in the 3D.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange?
It is. It is. It's like the whole like illusions are just like crumbling to the side.
The dimensions are just, the veils are more.
Yeah. Yes. And you can feel that, like when you're just even just sitting outside, like you can literally see that, you can feel that, like when you tap in. It's just it's kind of scary, but it's kind of exciting at the same time. Like you said, it just depends on the way you look at it, because obviously things had to end a certain way in order to make, it's like the death and rebirthal process.
It definitely is. And it just shows how it's all intertwined into the coil of Hydra.
Yes.
Immortal coil, this immortal, it's also called the clinging star. In the ninth chakra and the Lesha, it's considered the clinging star. So it's like,
wow.
You know,
wow.
you know, like like a leech.
Like a leech, yeah.
It's also like a wasp. So the wasp energy is very, very powerful and profound here in Egypt. It is all over the broken rocks. If you go back, one of the videos I did, I was with Nazama, the Hebrew mystic.
Yes, I saw that. The bee or the wasp that was on, and with the lotus flower. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Unfolding.
There's like all of these like reformations of crystal reformations in the Stargate sites right now. It's going through a major, reconfiguration, and there's actually a crystal lotus star. And I don't know if you can see it, but I've seen it at this vortex gate site, that through the major vortex that's going into the galactic center and the grand central sun, there's this crystal lotus that's coming and emanating out. It's
wow.
Like
wow.
Yeah, and
wow. Tingles. That's so cool.
But it's definitely solar power, and it's also, I guess, solar living light energy and solar death energy simultaneously.
Yes. 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 Oh my gosh. Yes.
It almost takes lunar completely out of the equation. Like I have been.
Well, lunar is a false light, I believe.
I have been feeling that too.
Yeah.
Well, there's just a lot of distortion. I've been noticing that people who resonate as lunars, they don't have a lot of connections to stargates. So they haven't activated stargate portals as strongly or as, and don't get me wrong, because some lunars may disagree with this. Because I feel you can be a lunar and you can be a solar, you can be everything you want to be. Although it is hard to really focus on developing aspects of your consciousness if you're kind of embodying everything and you're not really immersing yourself into one thing to fully gain the totality of that experience or that perception or that expansion of consciousness that it's providing for you.
Definitely.
But I do feel that there is this phasing out of lunar consciousness, and there is this reclamation of a new sun.
Yes.
That's coming through.
Yes. It makes a lot of sense. It's so weird too, because on the news, like right at the beginning of I don't really watch the news, but my husband likes to put it on. So when he puts it on, I notice like big things like flashing across the screen, which is why I don't like watching it. But it said in huge block letters, "The sun returns." The sun returns. So you can think of that as like the second coming, right, of Christ. You can think of that as the actual sun, like our original sun, actually returning and maybe rebirthing through our current sun. Like you were talking about the black diamond sun. Maybe that's the energy that's emanating, and it's the original structure. But it's really interesting. All of it is so interesting. And I've been doing research on Lemuria, like this, and I know this is kind of off topic, but it's not at the same time, because the Rapa Nui, the tribe on Easter Island, they would worship the Maui, those big giant statues with the faces on Easter Island, the stone statues, and they were considered to contain mana, which they received mana from the sun. And everything has to do with the sun. The more and more that I tap into it, and we receive our light codes, our downloads, everything from the sun. Everything from the sun. I tried to tap into the moon, and there's amazing things that have come about that, but I gain most of my downloads, most of my information, or most of my spontaneous bilocation from the sun itself. So I feel like the sun is like the ultimate life force. But what do? They spray chemtrails to block it. They say it's for the ozone, but it's not. It's to block us receiving our mana, our power, because we thrive from the sun. We get everything from the sun. When I used to do sun gazing, I had so much energy. Like half the time I didn't even need to sleep, because I was in this routine of sun gazing. Like before work, I would come home, I would go to the beach, sunset, I would sun gaze, I'd come home, I wouldn't even barely need to eat that much, and I wouldn't even need to sleep that much. And it's just like, from doing that myself, like as an experiment on myself, and to what I know now, tapping into the sun now, it's so much more than we've been told. And we're told that it's bad, that it gives you cancer, that it gives you radiation, which in some aspects, you know, is true if you do it unhealthily, if you do it without being smart about it. But at the same time, like, you need the sun. We need the sun. We need it. And like, there's an event coming up that they're saying is going to happen on December 21st. Yeah, this year. December 21st, they're saying the sun is going to go down for 3 days. On the third day, it's going to rise. During those 3 days, we're going to have ultimate blackness, supposedly. It's like this event video that I came across. It's just a perspective. I don't know if it's true. But what's interesting is when Christ, you know, was crucified, he was, you know, 3 days and then rose on the third day. And that's ultimately what our sun is supposed to do. And in that time, we're supposed to be able to see into the ethers, into the cosmos, like everybody's supposed to be able to, and receive this like Christ consciousness, higher knowledge from our sun. Like the sun is going to rest and then like put out this, like you said, the solar flash, emitting all that conscious energy and radiation. Like they're saying the radiation is going to be green, which I don't know what that has to do with, but they're saying that people, like, I guess it's like the original 144,000 or the people that are in higher consciousness will be able to go out into this and receive like superpowers, basically. It seems like a sci-fi kind of thing, but when I watched the video, it made a lot of sense. And then when I connected it back to what I saw in the news, like the sun returns, I'm like, they know something, obviously. I mean, they know everything. They predicted everything. But not everything. They don't know everything. And I think that's the job of the starseeds, is to like tap into the history of that and tap into what the actual meanings that have been withheld from us, because we gain our power from that knowledge. I just went on a huge tangent. I'm sorry, but
great. Thank you.
just blabbing. But I think it connects then.
Absorbing it, I'm integrating it.
But also like the tunnels in Lemuria, like when I researched it, there's tunnels underground the Pacific Ocean and in multiple places of the world. And when you were in that catacombs, the animal catacombs, on the ceiling, you saw all the starfish.
Yes. Thank you for catching that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Why? Like, I didn't.
Because the starfish represent the stars. Everything is reflected as above, so below. But also, I think there were parts of Egypt that were underwater. I don't think they were always like you had mentioned with the Sphinx, and like how the deterioration of that, some of it is water. And where's the water in the desert now, right? So there's so much in our history that like we don't know about, and these underground tunnels in Lemuria just keep coming up. And I think, you know, they connect. Everything connects somehow. And why starfish in the middle of the desert? Why is that?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because when I was there, the guides kept pointing out on the actual rocks of the pyramids and the broken temples and stuff, they were showing us the actual fossils of it being underwater. They were showing us like shells and
Wow.
calcified, you know, like shells and stuff that were underwater. So it was underwater. And Azama actually believes that the pyramids were built in the time of Lemuria.
Wow.
That they were from the time of Lemuria. So I felt that resonate when she said that.
Yeah, I just had chills, like weird chills, all circuit through my body just now.
And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot more that we're just continuing to uncover and figure out. And
yeah.
Right, with the sun, all of this information, with the blocking of it. I mean,
yeah.
What I'm so afraid of is it's because the sun actually represents our light and it represents our dark. It represents our good and our evil. It represents our healing and our poison. You know, so these mythologies that are coming forward, like such as like Hydra, like Hydra would be bringing forth more of the black diamond sun, would be bringing forth more of the poison or the destroyer or that dark seated protection that really does protect against the evil eye.
Yeah.
This is all solar power. And so I think it's just so primordially profound that as beings, as humans, you know, there's so much going on. They want to capitalize off of it. They want to take the technologies, Tesla technologies, and take this and keep it from humanity. I mean, there's so much of that's emanating from the same consciousness that it is solar conscious. It's like the sun's battling its own ego every day through every civilization.
Right. That's powerful. But it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And it's like those things like you mentioned with the black diamond sun, it's like the darkness that we don't want to acknowledge within ourselves, within the world. Like we can't keep oppressing it. We have to allow it to unfold like the lotus, so that way we can shine light on it and see it. And so that way we can correct the things that were untruths, correct the things that were, you know, distorted.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that, Miss Kimberkiss. I am going to have to jump off. The sun's starting to come down, so soon I'm going to have the sun set over the pyramids here.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be beautiful.
Such a profound conversation with you today. I feel like we really touched on so many deep aspects very quickly.
I tried to fit in as much as I could.
Yeah, we did. You came so prepared. I love it. Thank you so much for that. And then if you want to like quickly tell about your services or anything like that before we jump off.
Sure. I just do, you know, basic starseed origins readings. They're just on my Etsy shop, and I do Lemurian healings now with like my Lemurian crystal, light language activations and healings, and I offer timeless readings as well. So that's pretty much the gist of what I do. Yeah.
And I'm actually running a special right now that if anybody wants to book a J-Seal and then also an AMP session together and schedule that all within 1 week, I'll give 10% off of both of those interactive sessions. Nice. And it's a really good time to book with me just because I am here and I am bringing forth a lot of the diamond solar codes, octagonal geometries that are coming through this gate site right now. So it's a really good time to do energy work with me. And you can find that on my website, IndigoAngels.com. Thank you, Kimberkiss, for doing this with me. I love you so much. As always, until our next time.
Okay.
I will talk with you soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye.